internet, CD-ROMs, all were adult first. So, I mean, it's always been like in the forefront of technology. And as far as the proliferation of porn, it goes where it can go. You can't see porn advertised or shown on any major network. You can't see, even some of the cable stations, the satellite won't show even nudity. You can't see porn at Blockbuster. You can't see porn won't be advertised in almost any major newspaper or magazine in America. So porn had to go where it could go. And the internet, of course, was a place where it went in a big way. So you can't fault it for being a business wanting to make money, but again, there's so many ways parents can block their kids from seeing this stuff, and often they keep blaming porn on just a serious case of bad parenting. Now, I'm not saying that, the kids can go to their friend's house and access stuff, but, there's, internetsafety.com, I think the company that you work with, has Safe Eyes, and there's so many other, I've seen lists and lists of these different software companies that give you all kinds of protection. I've been in hotels where it even filters out a flesh color and something you're looking at. I can't even see anything that's R-rated. So you can protect your family and your child's computer pretty heavily. You can also see what your child is watching. So again, I don't see why this remains such a very big problem if parents just watch their kids.
Well, on that topic, obviously, that we're here as part of the Mommy Tech within CES, so products that are beneficial to families. So a question, does being exposed to pornography at a young age influence how an adult later views sex and relationships in general?
Well, me and Craig have had this debate for the longest time. And again, I quote different, I have stacks of surveys here, which I even brought with me, but I'm not going to need them. They've done surveys between the Williams Committee in England, the Fraser Committee in Canada, Nixon-Johnson Committee right here in America, the Denmark Committee. They never found a correlation between observing adult material and committing sexual crimes. If I thought that watching porn would make you a criminal, I would never have done it in my 32-year career. But all the findings show that it does not. So, and again, as far as a child watching porn, we are dead set against that anyway. We believe in the national choice of being 18 or over is totally fine with us. And as he said, there were some websites that were doing those little scams. You misspell a word like Britney Spears, it goes to a porn site. We did what's called, and again, Joan Irvine, who's here with us today with ASACP, which is the Advocation of Sites, Association of Sites Advocating Child Protection, and it monitors things like this. And we do what's called in-house. We find companies doing disgusting things like this. We tell them to stop. It doesn't have to go as far as the law, because frankly, that's disgusting. And look at it even from a financial point of view. Look what Camel cigarettes had to go through. They're advertising, Camel cigarettes on billboards too close to schoolrooms. They were sued for millions of dollars. We do not want we don't want kids to watch porn. We're clearly marked 18 or over. And again, if it does happen, but we're not in favor of that. In fact, me and Craig did a public service announcement that Jay Leno actually talked about on his show. He actually made a funny joke. It was Ron's telling kids not to watch porn. If they know who he is, isn't there a problem already? So that was Jay Leno. That's a direct quote from Jay Leno. But anyway, but we're doing what we can. And again, we also have, at the beginning of every porn film, we have the whole big disclaimer about adults watching adult material. So again,
I fast forwarded over.
Well, maybe, but I find nothing wrong with consenting adults watching consenting sex, consenting adults performing consensual sex for consensual adults to watch. I find nothing wrong with that, and I never will.
And what I would say, obviously, exposure to porn at an early age, the committees and all that stuff, that's where we differ. Those things are all older than I am and older than the internet. So these late studies that he's quoting, years ago. So obviously, there's not a ton of research post-internet. But what I've seen, if what he's saying is not true, how for 8 years have we been in business? We kind of got into this thinking, hey, I bet there's, some people out there that are affected because of pornography and early exposure to that, and we want to help those people. And so what I have seen firsthand is that this ruins not only your future sex life, that this ruins your view of pornography for so many people. I'm not saying everyone's going to go commit a crime, everyone's going to get a divorce, but for the most part, you've kept something in secrecy because parents, yes, they're not talking about this with their kids enough. We don't talk about this issue of pornography or what I saw on the internet or the things that I've done. And now, you get into a relationship and you carry that with you. Now you're thinking sex, oh, well, that's not just me and, one other person. What I like is me and 4 other people, or I like it here this way. And it's so violent in nature, the porn these days. Even if you were to ask Ron when he got in this business 33 years ago, The stuff that he was asked to do in those videos. I mean, I think you had like speaking roles back then, and these porns took like 5 days to make. Now it's like 5 hours, and forget the talk. Let's just, except for the one with the pirates. And the boats and the fireworks. But
it said blockbuster.
For the most part, this is just kind of cut to the chase, get to the sex, and it's so hardcore in nature. Kids are seeing that, and that's what they're thinking sex is all about, and it's so far from, when most of the porn is made for the male demographic, and, not to be nice, want to be nice to Ron, he's a good friend, but you don't find many 56-year-old women that look like Ron Jeremy stars signing over at AVN, like, I want your autograph, because they don't care what Ron looks like. This fantasy is for the male, and it's about the woman. And so, obviously, sex in real life, it's not like that. You have two people that have feelings and emotions, and a product that is just made for one person. Obviously, we're going to see some fallout because of that.
They found actually, Dr. Phil had a whole show that they found that violent video games are actually a much bigger danger to kids than anything else, because minors can do those video games that are very violent, and that kids who do play a lot of these games wind up, committing violence with their friends, whereas they can solve a dispute peacefully. They have found a correlation between observing that. Please keeping in mind that we are really strongly catering to 18 and over watching porn. And you got to also keep in mind that by the time you're 18 years of age, you can fight and drop dead for your country. So I don't think, you can't choose what porn you want to watch. I think, so.
Okay, so I know we're running short on time. I guess our last question, given the context of this event, what is your overall advice for parents dealing with this subject with their kids?
Well, when I was a teacher, the professor always told us when kids ask about, what they always say, when do you tell your kids about the birds and the bees? When do you discuss, sex with your kids? When do you discuss pornography with your kids? And the answer was, they're trying to guess what age is most significant. The actual answer was when they ask. When your kids ask the questions, that's when the parents have to start, talking to them about it. And but I guess basically, if you don't see that being any kind of problem, and most parents know their kids pretty well, if you don't see any kind of problem, then you can actually escape this topic for a little while. If you do see a problem, your kid seems to be, a little more overly hell-bent on watching this kind of material. Yes, there's a lot of dialogue being done. Maybe you have to call in a professional if necessary, but I think most parents, pretty much know what to do. And again, there are so many devices now, like I mentioned before, like the Safe Eyes and many, many others, that are, that's created for this type of problem. I just have a hard time thinking that there can be more done by the parents themselves.
And what I would maybe suggest, obviously with parents...
Oh, I know who they're visiting, I'm sorry. I know who your kids are seeing. Because if the parents of the kids they're visiting aren't being as careful as you are, and they have computers showing all kinds of stuff, then obviously you have to watch where your kids are going as well.
Yeah, exactly. But for the most part, I don't think every parent knows what their kids are up to. And to me, when they ask, my son asked me, who's 6 this morning, Dad, why is that there are girls on your bracelet? So obviously on the way to school, that's an interesting conversation that, I probably wasn't looking, I was like, I should have flipped it the other way. But, so obviously we have a chance to talk about that. But if I'm going to put an iPod Touch that's connected to the internet, if I'm going to put, a computer in my house or put a laptop in a kid's room, I'm not going to wait till that kid asks. I'm going to say, if I'm going to put devices that are connected to the internet or cable television, things like that these kids are going to be exposed to, as any parent. My dad, who's 67 and has a 14-year-old now that they've adopted. I don't understand the internet. Well, Dad, you better start, because you have a 14-year-old that does, and I know what he's searching for. And so we have to have those conversations. I think, for the most part, kids are smarter than their parents when it comes to technology. That whole thing needs to change. We're strong endorsers of Safe Eyes by Internet Safety. I think it's the best product out there. And to me, it does things that parents wouldn't even think of. Oh yeah, I should check, the iTunes feature so my kids can't download this kind of music. I want to be notified by text messaging, So, I mean, you come home and you look like the smartest parents out there when you get a simple piece of software that isn't an end-all solution, but for 40-something bucks a year, you're able to say, hey, I'm aware now of what's going on in my own house, and I'm going to set some restrictions and some boundaries in place. Even though, they think they call the shots, I'm still the parents. And we got to get parents doing more parenting and saying, I'm going to be proactive on these issues. And there's, sites like what we're doing at XXXchurch.com, a lot of help.